The Donald Trump judge had a hearing about the affidavit that accompanied the warrant that authorized the search of Trump's private home in Mar-a-Lago, Florida. And it was a little bit of an interesting hearing. The judge did unseal something, and we're going to take a look at what that is. But we've got a little bit to unpack here. I want to start by taking a look at the length of the hearing, sort of expecting a little bit more here. But if you actually go over to the court docket, here's what they tell us. And you can see this entry came in on August 18th. Here it is. It says we've got a minute entry for proceedings right here at the bottom, held before Judge Bruce Reinhart, right? That's the judge that we've been following along here. It's a miscellaneous hearing as to the sealed search warrant held on 8/18. That's today. Now look, total time in court, 1 hour, 17 minutes. Court reporter, shout out to Pauline. We love our court reporters here. And she's the person who sort of transcribed the minute entries. So not that long, right? I mean, really not that long at all. You've been here. We've read through hours of transcripts. I mean, thousands of pages at this point in time. And so they're there for an hour, 17 minutes. Not much goes on. Now we're going to go over to Politico. They had 2 reporters there, so we'll read the article from them and see what actually went down. But I want to just show you what the outcome was, right? Let's fast forward right to the outcome so we can sort of tease out what this means. But the second entry here on top, it says the following. Ordered that by noon Eastern on Thursday, August 25th, the government shall file under seal its proposed redactions along with a legal memo setting forth the justification for the proposed redactions. Right. So I'm going to read the actual order here in a minute, but I wanted to show you this. I highlighted it. Docket entry number 57 shall be unsealed by the clerk of the court. Right. So we'll take a look at that. So there is a little bit of an unsealing taking place. And then Judge Reinhart says, see the attached document for the full details. So we'll take a look at that. But we've got sort of 2 things to parse through. This is docket entry. Well, actually, let's just go over right to the docket itself. So I have the docket linked here. And if we scroll over there, we're going to see the order that looks like this. Filed on 8/18, it is filed by JMD out of the D.C. court, stamped on August 18th. United States District Court out of the Southern District of Florida, 1 page, right? Not much. And you can see it is signed here by the judge, by Bruce Reinhart. Done and ordered, Chambers, West Palm Beach, Florida, 18th day of August. Here's what it says. This cause is before the court on motions to unseal the search warrant materials, including the probable cause affidavit, because we've already seen a bunch of other stuff. We really want to see the meat and potatoes. These were all filed by the media intervenors. And if you remember on the actual court docket, okay, we listed a whole slew of these media intervenors. And basically a lot of these people were there at that moment in time. So for example, we had yesterday, right? This was the response by all of these media companies. Look at all of them. You've got Times is here, American Broadcasting, ABC, right? You know the list of them. Basically everybody. Because the media thrives on Trump. So they're all skidding in there and they're saying, you've got to unseal this puppy. So here, he says, look, today, this is Judge Reinhart speaking. He says, today I held a hearing on the motions. As I ruled from the bench at the conclusion of the hearing, I find that on the present record, the government has not met its burden of showing that the entire affidavit should remain sealed. I'll read it and we'll unpack it. It says, it is ordered that by noon Eastern time on Thursday, August 25th, so that's next week, the government shall file under seal its proposed redactions, along with a legal memorandum setting forth the justification for the proposed redactions. Further ordered that ECF number 57 shall be unsealed, right? So this is the new thing that was unsealed. They went back. They said, okay, 57 sealed, unsealed, just flip that box. And then we'll take a look at that document. Now, a couple interesting things here, right? A lot of people are saying that this means that he is going to unseal it. Now, I don't read it that way personally. Right? There's a lot of headlines flying out there today saying that he was specifically making the ruling that the affidavit is going to be unsealed. I'm not sure I see that. What I see is he says, I find that on the present record that, yeah, I can unseal this thing, right? I'm leaning towards unsealing it. But currently it's not met its burden. So, you know, in other words, it's sort of like if I'm a prosecutor, if I'm reading this as a government prosecutor, I'm like, oh, okay, well, the present record, they haven't met our burden. So how can we supplement the record? How can we actually add some additional facts here that will make this thing more palatable for the judge? The judge is seemingly going to be authorizing this to be released. And they say, well, the present record's not good enough, but how about if I layer a bunch of other crap on top of it? So if they do that, maybe the judge changes his mind. But if not, right, if there's not anything additional, then it's ordered that they shall file under seal its proposed redactions along with a legal memo setting forth the justification for the proposed redactions. So then you say, oh, great. So then on the 25th, they're gonna file their response for the proposed redactions. They're gonna say, they're gonna send all of that in. We want everything redacted. They're gonna just take a big, disgusting Sharpie and just take all the black pages all over the place. And then what's gonna happen is that the media is gonna respond, and then they're gonna go through this line by line, right? It's gonna be a big litany of responses. And the question will be, what's the judge going to do with this? Is he going to, debate this out for another 4 or 5 months? Are we going to get, redactions within 30 days? Well, it's probably going to take a while. And we played a lot with this in the Ghislaine Maxwell case. And it took a long time, man. We were getting documents 3 months late after the redactions were finally approved. We were looking at documents, 2-3 months after they were submitted, and the proposed redaction sequence went on. Because in that case, right, it's prosecutor, defense, judge makes a ruling, and then finally we get to some conclusions on that. But, this is it. This is what came out of the ruling out of the court today. And what that means is there's going to be a lot more to have conversations about the ultimate redactions. Now, as I mentioned, the judge did tell us that entry number 57, as we see here, further ordered that DE docket entry number 57 shall also be unsealed. And so many people are saying, wow, well, what is entry 57? We better go take a look at that one because we want to see some unsealed documents. And that came out today, but docket entry 57, as you can see, this one came out back on August 15th, right? And so this was this is when they filed it. This is the U.S. government filing. It is a second notice of filing of redacted documents. So the court said, you can unseal this, all right? And there is actually some stuff to read through here. So let's take a look at this. This was that entry that was filed on August 15th, and it is 5 pages long, and it comes out of the same court, of course. And this was the entry that was filed under seal. This is being filed by the U.S. government prosecutors, and it's about Trump, right? It's all about the search warrant. We see the second notice of filing of the redacted documents is now here. The United States, this is government prosecutors, is notifying the court that we're filing the following documents, which is a redacted version of material previously filed in this case under seal. So the criminal cover sheet for the August 5th warrant, right? We're going to look at that again. The cover sheet of August 5th warrant application, so that's page 4, docket entry page 4. The government's motion to seal the warrant, which was docket entry 2, and then docket entry number 3. Oh, okay. So you can see we're sort of doing a loop-de-loop. We're going around and around we go. When we go back over here, the number 57 was about really sort of referencing docket entries 2 and 3, which were all the way down here, which were accompanying the warrant, right? That was accompanying the warrant and the motion to seal the warrants. And so we actually don't even have entries 2 and 3. It's basically these 2 entries, 2 and 3, or somewhere in here. They're sort of skipping it over them in the numbering there. But that's what they're referencing. It's referencing those 2 documents. So we see those, right? These actual orders are now here. This criminal cover sheet has now been unsealed, and it may have been I have not seen it before. It's the first time I'm seeing it. So I'm not sure if you've seen it before, but it's the first time I've seen it because it came out today. Criminal cover sheet says, 1, did this matter originate from a matter coming out of northern region of U.S.? No. Probably looking for conflicts or retiring judges or a scheduling issue. Did this matter originate from a matter out of the central region? Answered no. 1, attorney attests to that, so nothing really there. But this is the application for the search warrant, right? And this one is stamped here with a big red stamp filed by TM out of the D.C. Entry court, or stamped on by somebody receiving it from the clerk, right? When you file a court document, you typically get what's called a courtesy copy back. So we stamp it, they stamp it, and we stamp ours. So we have a copy that we say, we gave this to you and you stamped it, right? So we filed it, you filed it. And even when we mail in motions, we'll typically mail a motion that they can stamp and mail back to us, right? So we have a copy of that. So that's what's happening here. Now, we've already talked about some of this, but let's just take a quick look at it again. In the matter of the search, describe the area, right? It is the Palm Beach residence at Mar-a-Lago. Application for a warrant by telephone or other electronic means. I, a federal law enforcement officer, request a search warrant and state under penalty of perjury that I believe that on the following person or property, see attachment A. And that is going to be the description of the property to be searched and its location. Located in Southern District of Florida, we believe that there is concealed, see attachment B. So we've got two big attachments that are very important here. Why? What's the basis for the search? Oh, there it is. Evidence of a crime, right? Contraband, fruits of crime, or other illegally possessed materials. That's the evidence of Trump, being a criminal. And we've talked previously about these three different broad categories. And, as I said, you could, a lot of this is very academic, right? We could pull open those statutes. We could take a look at each different, violation, take a look at the elements and see what's there. But, it's basically academic at this point until you know a little bit more about what they want and what the investigation is involving. Here we see, they also see the attached affidavit of FBI Special Agent so-and-so. Who is this person? We don't know. Continued on the attached sheet, signed by Special Agent so-and-so. It has a little bit of a flamboyant signature there. Attested to in accordance with the federal rules of criminal procedure. They called in by a WhatsApp. They called in on a WhatsApp, right? Sort of just dialed in through the application. Signed off on, so the judge is just listening on his WhatsApp, right? Sending emojis back and forth. Says, okay, yeah, that sounds great. I listened to your affidavit, and I've decided that this is just perfect. I'd love to grant a warrant for you to go raid the former president's home. I don't like him anyways. Sounds perfect. Bruce Reinhart signs off on the warrant, and there it is. Now, accompanying the warrant was this request, which is the motion to seal it so that nobody can see what's happening, right? It's not public record yet. Same thing happened here. Filed August 5th. Accompanying the warrant, the FBI special agent is going to say, yeah, I'm going to attest to all of this. But the prosecutors are going to want to communicate to the judge that all of this has to be kept under seal. How do they do that? Through this document. They file the motion to seal. And so the government prosecutors, they tell us, they say, the United States of America, by and through the undersigned assistant, United States attorney, hereby moves to seal this motion, the search warrant, and all its accompanying documents until further order of this court, right? And this is what we're trying to undo, to unring this bell. The United States submits that there is good cause because the integrity of the ongoing investigation might be compromised and evidence might be destroyed. Now, you can understand that before a search warrant is executed, right? Before it's executed. Say, we need to go get these illegal drugs in that person's house. If they know we're coming, they're going to flush it all down the toilet. So you don't want them to know about it. But after the warrant's been executed and you've seized those drugs, there's really no risk of them going down the toilet anymore, right? Sort of is what we're arguing. We want to see all of this uncovered. So the United States further requests that pursuant to this court's procedures for highly sensitive documents, all documents associated with this investigation not be filed on the court's electronic document because filing these materials on the electronic document poses a risk to safety given the sensitive nature of the material contained therein. So they don't want the affidavit unsealed. They don't even want this in the computer system, it sounds like. They don't even want it on the federal dockets where you file everything, right? That's where we go and we cover all of our cases there. All the Sussman stuff was on there. We saw all of Ghislaine Maxwell stuff on there, right? All of this stuff, sealed, unsealed, and so on. They don't want it even on the docket. Signed off on by a redacted attorney who signed off on the name here. Okay, Juan Antonio Gonzalez is just a United States attorney. He's probably for the District of Florida. But who is the actual U.S. attorney who signed off on it? I don't know. I don't know who it is. That's a little bit strange why they'd redact that. I mean, you work there. Curious. Now, here's the sealing order. Okay, so as the prosecutor signs it, the judge signs off on the warrant. He's just signing documents. Yeah, Trump got it. Yep, next. What else you got? Anything else? Sealing order. The United States of America having applied to this court, Bruce Reinhart, for an order sealing the motion to seal. So we're filing a motion to seal, and I'd like an order to seal the motion to seal, right? So that you can't even see that I'm requesting this to be sealed. That's like, right, it's like inception of sealing. This order shall be filed, it says here, it is hereby ordered, now that the court has found good cause, that not only the sealing of the seal will be allowed, but the search warrant and all of its accompanying documents. And this order, court finds good cause, the motion to seal, the search warrant, and its accompanying documents, and this order shall be filed under seal until further notice. However, they say the United States Attorney's Office and the FBI may obtain copies of any sealed document for purposes of executing the search warrant, right? So the FBI sort of has free reign to come and go. Same with the DOJ. You need to see this stuff, no problem. Just flash your badge and we're good. So that's what we get out of this, right? And that's what was unsealed. Now, all this stuff was filed back on August 5th. And so we don't get a whole lot, more of this. It's just sort of the process that they went through. Now, we do find it interesting that, they are still sort of concerned about this was filed originally, but they're still concerned about the destruction of evidence, about the sensitive nature of the material made within. I mean, that's the argument that they were making in court today. And so there were no documents that were available to be sort of seen or I'm sorry, there were no audio recordings or video recordings that were allowed to be broadcast. But we did hear from Politico they had two reporters who were there. They were actually in the media room. And here's what they tell us happened. They say Donald Trump entered Thursday demanding answers about the FBI search of his private residence. Former president got few new details about the probe. Got a piece of unwelcome news to boot, says the feds are just getting started. That's the message that came out from Justice Department prosecutors during an hour-long court hearing on Thursday over whether to publicly release the contents of the affidavit. Trump has, they say, ricocheted from one legal crisis to another. At Thursday's proceedings, the Justice Department's top counterintelligence official, Jay Bratt, repeatedly emphasized that the investigation into the former president's handling of the classified White House records is, quote, in its early stages. Which, of course, we've all prognosticated for some time. There is no off-ramp for them. Where else can they go but to continue with this prosecution? Sort of once you're in, baby, you got to go all in. If you're going to come at the king, if you're going to swing, you best not miss, right? They're all in at this point. So they say it's in its early stages. Magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhart, who authorized the search on August 5th, ordered prosecutors to propose redactions to the affidavit by next week. Now, they're indicating here that he's skeptical of their arguments to keep those documents under seal, and I'm not so sure about that, right? Yeah, he may release something, but even if it is released, I'm going to guess it's going to be sort of this big, redacted, blanked out sheet of paper. We've seen a lot of those here. They're quite annoying. He set a deadline of next Thursday for the prosecutors to propose the redactions to the affidavit. And he says, I'm not prepared to find the affidavit should be fully sealed, right? So that's what I was waiting for. Now, in his order, it didn't seem unequivocal. He sort of was kind of kicking the can down the road a little bit. I find at present that the government has not met their burden. And so apparently somebody listening in court said that he said this as well. I'm not prepared to find the affidavit should be fully sealed. So he's sort of still open. But Reinhart also signaled he would likely announce significant redactions and a final resolution on the issues of public access may still be a long way off. They're going to go slowly. They're going to slow roll the whole thing. This is going to be considered careful process where everyone's rights are going to be protected, he said. That's Judge Reinhart. Trump World, of course, according to this article, they say that these proceedings were treated as a mixed bag. His team demanded the full release of the affidavit, but they, of course, did not get that. Now, there were some other interesting filings here that took place, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with this gentleman, but he is the former CEO of Overstock.com. His name is Patrick Byrne. And as I mentioned in the court dockets, there's been all sorts of interesting filings. So, in addition to the media, there's a whole litany of media people, ABC and so on, all filing to be a part of this thing. We also have some interesting individuals who are filing documents. We talked previously about this individual. His name is Michael Barth. And today he filed something very interesting. He's asking for a district judge, so somebody who is actually sort of at a different level than the magistrate judge, which is Judge Reinhart, to review what he has done. Right? He's saying, I'd like to speak to your manager motion that just came out, and I don't mean that in a condescending way. You know, I filed many of these, and it's to notice for a change of judge is to go to the presiding judge. Right? You go to the presiding when you got a problem with a lower level judge. He's saying, can somebody else take a look at this? He's also asking for the judge recusal and to file, and he says he's responding to the government's omnibus response to the motion. Okay, so he's filing something on his own. And my point of detailing this is that like everybody's sort of skidding in here and getting involved. Today, there was another very interesting motion by this guy. So he filed two documents. On August 18th, he filed these two things. One, a motion to intervene and a memo of law filed by Patrick Byrne, and a sworn declaration by Patrick Byrne. And now Patrick Byrne, right, if you don't know who this guy is, he's the CEO of Overstock.com, led two smaller companies. He, let's see here, wrote a book at some point in time. He resigned as CEO in August 2019, following revelations that he, according to Wikipedia, was involved with the Russians, which everybody is. Byrne then emerged as a leading figure, they say, in promoting conspiracy theories, which means he's probably one of the most accurate people out there. I mean, because everybody who was a conspiracy theorist like 18 months ago is like dead on accurate about everything. So so what this means is he's probably a genius, including the deep state conspiracy. Oh yeah, 100%. He's brilliant. Okay. It says in 2021, he repeatedly promoted claims about the election, toured United States to promote some vaccination issues, became notable for distributing and selling what they call misinformation. So, little, probably, brilliant pieces of information, truthful information is what I would guess. He's also been noted for his conservative views on public education, right? And the CEO of Overstock, you got to imagine this guy's sort of kind of a heavy hitter with a lot of capital. And we've been seeing some interesting movements on a lot of this. We talked a lot about Peter Thiel and JD Vance and Blake Masters here in Arizona. We've talked about Elon Musk was apparently hanging out in Wyoming with Kevin McCarthy in the days leading up to the primary and the elimination of Liz Cheney. And you've got the CEO of Overstock now, who's also sort of filing motions on his own. And let's take a look at one of these motions. It's actually quite interesting here. Now, I'm not going to be able to read all of it because of our YouTube censor. He's back there. I don't know what he has today, like a mace or a katana or something. But this is 7 pages. And it says that this is Patrick Byrne's consolidated motion to intervene. It is for the limited purpose of providing access and getting access to the search warrant, right? So he wants to see this stuff. He wants to see the search warrant just like everybody else does. Comes now pro se Patrick Byrne. He says, Judge, look, I need access to these records. Here's why. On August 8th, FBI agents went and raided Trump's presidential residence. The search was apparently for the Presidential Records Act. And according to the docket, all entries, including the affidavit in support, are sealed. Now, Patrick Byrne, I contend that these records should be unsealed to promote transparency. Now, this is going to get interesting. Like, we're going to hear some very interesting stuff in here. Relevant facts within Patrick Byrne's personal knowledge. The facts stated herein are based upon my personal knowledge. My personal knowledge, right? I was there. I saw this stuff. The dialogue quoted here was documented 30 to 40 days after it was spoken in my book. So go check that book out if you want to read it. A book was written in January and February. On the evening of Friday, December 18, 2020, remember this? Attorney Sidney Powell, and General Flynn and another attorney named Emily Newman, who worked for Ms. Powell, and I were sitting in the Oval Office with President Donald Trump with the door closed. What? So Patrick Byrne is sitting there with Sidney Powell, Flynn, and Emily Newman in the Oval Office with Trump, December 18, 2020. He says also in the meeting, White House General Counsel Pat Cipollone, who we heard about in the J6 hearings, and attorney Patrick Philbin, and attorney Eric Hirschman, who I think is the creepy panda lawyer. In this meeting, the topic of discussion revolved around how to respond to the situation where the FBI and the DHS had themselves reported foreign interference being attempted back in the election. Foreign interference in our election was something that was, discussed in the Oval Office, and they discussed multiple solutions to this. Flynn responded, and they had a big debate over all of this stuff. Now, at some point, Pat Cipollone, apparently, remember Pat Cipollone was called to testify in the front of the January 6th committee. He says, Pat, a few minutes ago, you said that I can make anything happen by just saying it. Well, as I've decided, I could just appoint, let's say, for example, Sidney Powell as the White House counsel. I could just snap my fingers and make her special counsel. Can I do that? And somebody said to him, another White House lawyer says, no, it'll take months, and Sidney Powell will never get it. She's got to get clearance, right? Like, it'll take forever, and she'll never be able to get it. Flynn responded to this saying, hey, Mr. President, you can do that right here on the spot. You can just say, Sidney Powell is now special counsel, snap my fingers, and it's done. And after he does that, Mr. President, says Michael Flynn, you can also give her clearance right now. You can grant any clearance you want on the spot verbally. And they had a conversation about that. So here, what Trump said, according to Byrne, who apparently was in the room, says immediately thereafter, Donald Trump stated to his White House lawyers, I grant Sidney Powell a top secret security clearance. White House counsel got angry, but they didn't dispute Trump's actions, and they left the room. And he says, ladies and gentlemen, I witnessed a former national security advisor advise the president of his power to verbally grant any level security clearance to a person on the spot. Okay, that's the point of this whole thing. The president was instructed by professionals in his government, you have the power to do it, just do it. On December 18, I witnessed Trump verbally appoint her to the position of special counsel. And he had another meeting with Rudy Giuliani later on. But he says, all of this boils down to a raid on the president's residence for a violation of Residence and Presidential Records Acts. It says President Trump verbally declassified all the records in question that were targeted in the raid. And President Trump's lawyers advised him that he can speak into existence the powers of the president, which would then be evidenced by a subsequent document, commission, etc. Right? So he's been sort of, counseled that this is how it works. This is what you do, and you just do it. And we make the rest of it happen, which is sort of how it feels like it should be, right? Remember that the presidency is the top layer of everything, or it's supposed to be. If Trump has to go fill out a form, if he's like, can I declassify this, please? Again? Get out of here, Mr. President. We're busy. All right, here, fill out the form. Here, you fill it out, and you get the form. It's like at a doctor's office, 37 pages. Fill out your name and phone number on every page. Then he's not really in charge, is he? Evidence that the president has the power to verbally appoint special counsel has been lawfully upheld and exercised in my presence. And he writes up, sends all of this in, says, this is my statement, this is my declaration, and this is what I say happened. And so now you should take that into consideration, Judge, and unseal the search warrant, unseal the affidavit, and give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt as you continue to unpack this request by the media and others to see what is ultimately happening here. Now, as we can see, there is more to come on this, but it's not going to happen until August 25th. And that's the time at which the U.S. government is going to have to respond to the court order saying, what is your list of redactions, and give justification for every one of those. And so on prior shows here, we've talked a lot about what these look like. These search warrant affidavits are 5 pages to 10 pages, 15 pages sometimes. And they're typically, sometimes they can be photographs. Sometimes they are blocks of text. And they're going to have to go through each one of those one by one and justify the redactions for each one of them. So, we'll have to see what that looks like. There will very likely be redactions on the motion and the memo for redactions. So we may not even get to see what those requested redactions are. But regardless, we will, of course, continue to follow, and I hope you join us on that. If you're not already subscribed, we have been covering this in detail, and we will continue to do so. So thank you for liking this and continuing to follow the Trump warrant saga